All right, here we go. Welcome to season 3 of Sports Talk. I am Shay Neal. We are back on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while, but we return to YouTube this season after many requests. I am back. And let's quickly break it down for all of you who are new. My name is Shay Neal. I am 18 years old. I'll be 19 in a few months, but I am a broadcaster and radio personality, as well as a producer for 1410 ESPN Radio. I am the main broadcaster for the Wright State Raiders. I have done soccer games, basketball games, and baseball games, with my two main sports being basketball and baseball. And I started this show up when I was in high school. It has really kind of just been my way of just, talking sports with you guys every week, but it's become part of what I do now, and I enjoy it a lot, and I'm excited to be back. So that's a little bit about me. You can add me, you can keep up with me and my life by adding me on Snapchat, first of all, and my username there is ShayNeal143, all lowercase, SHEANEAL 143. Also, you can add me on Instagram, and that's at ShayNeal01. Again, at lowercase SHEANEAL 01. That's how I communicate with the public about what's going on in my life, and definitely follow me on there. I frequently let you guys know with what I am doing and when that will be and how you can keep in touch with me. So, what is new here in season 3? If you're new here, welcome. I really appreciate you guys giving me a shot, and I hope I can entertain you. For those of you coming back, I really appreciate it. I couldn't do any of this without the support I get, and you guys mean the world to me. So, starting off today's show will be a little bit of a channel update and show update. The new show times per week. I did not have my current occupation at ESPN Radio when I did this show the first 2 seasons. I do now. So I'm changing the show time and the show day. There will be 2 shows a week. This will begin next week. It will be Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 o'clock. The thing that's a little bit different this time around is I usually had it in seasons 1 and season 2. I had it, it would always be no more than an hour. It would be usually between about 40 minutes and an hour for a show. This time, I'm not having a designed time limit. I mean, whatever is big in news that week, that's how long we'll go. You guys deserve to know everything that's going on in the world of sports, and I'm here to give it to you. So if some shows, if there's a slow week in the news world and we only go 45 minutes, that's fine. Other weeks, we might go hour and a half, maybe even closer to 2 hours. But I'm in it for the long haul. Again, that's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 o'clock. They will be live then and uploaded to YouTube soon afterwards. And also new to the channel on YouTube at S. Jacob Neal, which is how you're listening to this, I will be beginning to broadcast 3 baseball games per week. For those of you who don't know, my long-term goal is to be a play-by-play guy for an MLB baseball team. And I'd like to get a lot more practice in than I am currently getting at the college level, because I do go to college in Southwest Ohio, and there's a lot of weather here. Yes, it's late April. Yes, we're still getting snow. Yeah, as you can tell by the tone of my voice, I'm just thrilled about it. But I've had a lot of games this year that I was supposed to call get rained out or snowed out, and I need to start getting more audio of me doing that. So expect 3 games a week, featuring all 30 Major League Baseball teams and some select college games and minor league baseball games. I have a list randomizer app on my phone where I just entered all 30 teams into that list, and I'm just going to keep randomizing it. So whatever fan you're a team of, I will be doing a play-by-play from the perspective of your favorite team. And just to, going off on that, I later on tonight, it'll probably be about midnight, 1 in the morning Eastern time, wherever time zone you're listening from. I will be uploading a game from Wednesday night, the Alabama Alcorn State game from Tuscaloosa. That will be uploaded later tonight. I have all the information I need, and I will be calling that game tonight and uploading it. And for those of you that listened to the first couple of years, you know we had Athletes of the Week, and those will be returning later this summer. I have been busy with school and work, and as soon as those athletes become more available to me and I have more time, athlete of the week, and certain guests will certainly be returning. So that's all you have. Look forward to that. And let's start with the sport that's kind of in full bloom right now in the playoffs, and that is the NBA. Right now, I'll give you a little bit of a score update here as we're in the middle of some of these games. First of all, we'll cover scores from last night while I'm looking up these scores. The Philadelphia 76ers in the return of Joel Embiid defeat the Miami Heat from South Beach, 128-108. Embiid leads the way with 23 points for the Sixers. Dario Saric with 21 and Ben Simmons with 19. Leading the way for the Heat, Goran Dragic with 23 points. And now Philadelphia leads that series 2-1. Right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers and Indiana Pacers with 37.5 seconds to go. Pacers leading the Cavs 91-87, trying to take a 2-1 lead. That series tied at 1. And at halftime in the other game tonight, Toronto trailing the Washington Wizards. Not in the series. Toronto leads the series 2-0, but in Game 3, the Washington Wizards up 8 at the half, 69-61. Also from last night, Portland takes on New Orleans. Portland plays New Orleans. And New Orleans wins to take a commanding 3-0 series lead. 119-102 the final there from the Bayou. Nikolai Mirotic leads the way from the Pelicans with 30 points. Anthony Davis with 28. And Drew Holiday, who's been playing lockdown defense on Damian Lillard this series, finishes with 16 points and 7 assists. We'll go into a little bit more detail about the Pelicans and all of the NBA teams in the playoffs a little bit later. I'll share what my new topic of this week is. And also the other game from last night, the third and final one, the Golden State Warriors go into San Antonio and beat the Spurs 110-97. Warriors lead that series 3-0. Leading the way for the Warriors, Kevin Durant, 26 points, Klay Thompson with 19, and Draymond Green, Mr. Stat Stuffer himself, doing it a little bit of everything, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 blocks. So a little bit of injury news for the NBA, primarily the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant suffered a sprained ankle last night. He, though, expects it to be completely fine, and he will be ready for Game 4 on Sunday. Stephen Curry, he could possibly miss games in the Western Conference semis. That is the second round of the NBA playoffs, obviously. Curry, we have rumors that Zaza Pachulia touched Stephen Curry in the shoulder in the postgame interview after Game 3. That could be the cause of this injury concern and why he might miss more games. Zaza Pachulia, known for injuring players. So wishes to Steph Curry. Hopefully he can recover from a possible season-ending injury from Zaza Pachulia. For those of you who are new, I'm just going to let you guys know while I'm at this. I want this show to be pretty professional. I will definitely, I'm not trying to be dull in this or boring. I will definitely add in jokes and humor, and I want to make this entertaining and fun for you. But also, this is what I do. This is my profession. This is my occupation. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I want to I don't want to be one of those. I've heard way too many people in sports media that are too carefree and swear on air and, just are very, very obnoxious. And I don't want to be like that. Trust me, they get on your nerves. So yeah, that's that. And I promise this is just the first episode. I will not say very often. All right, so that's a little bit of NBA news. Now we're going to move into this new segment. I had this idea here today before I wrote the show. I do write all of my shows, all the topics and all that. I do not trust other people to write my own stuff, so I do that. And the NBA, how we're going to wrap up the NBA today, I'm going to do this for a little bit for the NHL too when we get to that. But this is my playoff teams confidence meter. I'm ranking teams starting at 16, the team I'm the least confident in, all the way down to 1, which is the team I'm the most confident in. And of course, I can't just state this, so I gave you guys a little bit of reasoning why I ranked the teams where I did. So at number 16, the team I am absolutely the least confident in right now is the San Antonio Spurs. I love Greg Popovich. He is one of my favorite coaches in the league. It's really close between him and Brad Stevens. Both of them are just amazing coaches. But I have the Spurs at 16 because no Kawhi, you're down 3-0, and you're playing Golden State. I'm not very confident in the Spurs winning 4 in a row against the Warriors. Number 15, in action right now and up 5 in the beginning of the third quarter, trying to prove me wrong. You have the Washington Wizards. I have the Wizards at number 15 because they are the number 8 seed in the East. Toronto's looked pretty strong so far in the playoffs, and they have the worst defensive efficiency in the playoffs, giving up nearly 119 points per 100 possessions, which is absolutely brutal. I'm a Cavs fan, and that defense is worse than the Cavs. And for all of you people that have watched Cavs games, you know the Cavs defense is awful. Number 14, you have the Minnesota Timberwolves, the number 8 seed in the West. Although the Timberwolves do have some star power with Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler, and Karl-Anthony Towns, they have the worst offensive efficiency in the playoffs. And they lost by 20 in Game 2 when James Harden shot the ball 2 of 18. It's going to be very hard to beat the Rockets if you can't beat them when James Harden shoots 2 of 18. Number 13, we have the Portland Trailblazers. The Trailblazers are the 3 seed in the West. They're currently down 3-0 to the Pelicans. They cannot stop Anthony Davis on defense, and Damian Lillard has not been the same Damian Lillard we're used to here so far in the playoffs. That is why I have the Trailblazers at 13. They're down 3-0. I mean, have teams come back from down 3-0? Yes, but I just don't see it. I think the Pelicans may sweep them. Number 12, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are the number 7 seed in the East. They are currently down 2-0 to the Boston Celtics, and a lot of people believe that the Bucks had a chance to beat the Celtics going into this series. They still do, obviously. They're going back to Milwaukee, or if they win Game 3 and 4, it's tied up. But my problem with the Bucks is who else besides Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to step up? Giannis is averaging 32.5 points per game so far in the playoffs. And who's the Bucks' second option? Is it Jabari Parker? Is it Eric Bledsoe, who I'll get into in a minute? Eric Bledsoe has been vastly underperforming in his time as a Buck. Also, a weak defense. They are below average in terms of defensive efficiency. Their offense isn't elite. It's not bad. It's practically average, but an average offense isn't going to make up for a below average defense. And like I was mentioning, Eric Bledsoe in Milwaukee has not been the Eric Bledsoe that we saw in Phoenix. They were expecting to get a star point guard that would help Giannis Antetokounmpo be that second superstar they needed and compete for the Eastern Conference title. Eric Bledsoe has been average at best this year. He's turned the ball over a lot. He's not passing the ball as well as he did in Phoenix. His shooting percentages have gone down. And Giannis is basically trying to carry this Bucks team by himself at this point. Hopefully Jabari Parker or Chris Middleton or Eric Bledsoe can step up and help. But right now I have the Bucks at number 12. Number 11, the Miami Heat. The Heat, like some of the other teams down here at the bottom of my confidence meter, bad defense. Bad defense, and they're carried by 2 players, Dwayne Wade, who's had a really nice revamp of his career ever since he was traded back to Miami, and Goran Dragic. And the big thing about the Heat were supposed to compete with the Sixers for the spot in the second round as well. But what happened to Hassan Whiteside? Hassan Whiteside, double-double machine in the regular season. Right now in the playoffs, I'm not completely sure of his numbers. Here, I can look if you give me a minute. Hassan Whiteside has really been struggling in these playoffs. And you have to wonder at this point, is it because of is he like injured, or is this because as that game, the Pacers-Cavs game has just gone final while I'm thinking about it, the Indiana Pacers have taken a 2-1 series lead on the Miami Heat with a 92-90 victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the Pacers take the 2-1 lead going to Game 4 in Indiana. Right now, if you look at his playoff stats, here we go. Hassan Whiteside right now averaging in the playoffs, as this is just giving me his regular season stats. This isn't what I wanted. Hang on one sec. Trying to find this. Here we go. His playoff numbers. Right now, Hassan Whiteside averaging 3.7 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, a block a game, which is pretty good. But his turnovers has gone up 1. His blocks have gone down. His rebounds have gone down by 7. His points have gone down by 9. What happened to Hassan Whiteside? His regular season numbers are great. In his regular season career with the Heat, he averages 20, almost 20 points a game, 18.5 points per game, with 15 rebounds per game and 3 blocks a game. Hassan Whiteside's been the center, the best pure center the Heat have had since Shaquille O'Neal. But in the playoffs, he's averaging 10.1 points per game, and it just hasn't been the same. It's like I said, he's averaging 10.1 points, 9 rebounds, but that's mostly from last season. This playoff run, 3.7 points per game, 4 rebounds, 1 block, 2 turnovers in only 13 minutes a game. What happened to Hassan Whiteside? That's the big thing with the Miami Heat. What happened to Whiteside? And that's why they're at number 11. Number 10 is the 4 seed in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And with the Thunder, this mostly came after game 2, my confidence on them. They have an underwhelming offense considering the star power that they have. You have Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, Steven Adams, and even, Jeremy Grant off the bench, and Terrence Ferguson off the bench. And this Thunder team is a team you'd expect to be one of the top offenses in the league with Westbrook, George, and Anthony, but they're average at best and very, very inconsistent. Also, awful and clutch moments. The Thunder over the last few years, and especially this year, the worst team, not just in the playoffs, in the entire NBA in a point differential in the last 5 minutes of an NBA game. They are terrible in the clutch. And that showed against the Jazz. And then also their stars are, like I mentioned, the stars are inconsistent. Westbrook, George, Anthony, all superstars. They've all been great in their careers. But they went 0 for 14 in the fourth quarter in that game against the Jazz. And that's a big reason why they're tied at 1 going to Utah. Number 9 is the Utah Jazz. That's as we move into my top 10. And my only thing with the Jazz, they have a fantastic defense. But who, like I've mentioned with a couple other teams, who's going to do it besides Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert? Who do you have? Joe Ingles? Okay. Joe Johnson? Maybe. Mitchell's the only consistent scorer that they can count on, and Gobert's the only real, I guess, defensive leader on that team. You never know what you're going to get with the other players. So that's what worries me about the Jazz. And also, they have an inconsistent offense, like I mentioned. That defense is great, but the offense has to step up. Number 8, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. Yes, I know they're up 3-0. I'll get to it in a minute while I still have them at 8. Sorry, Pelicans fans. First of all, before I tell you why I have them at 8, Rondo's point guard abilities have been the talk, or my big thing with the Pelicans. Rajon Rondo, I don't even know what he's averaging in terms of points. It's probably not that many. It might be less than 10. But he's averaging 12 assists a game. And if you've ever watched Rajon Rondo play, he doesn't score a lot, but he's one of the best pure point guards in the NBA. Definitely one of the most underrated. He makes that team better. Anthony Davis is on fire. He has to be in the MVP conversation. Ever since Cousins got hurt, Anthony Davis has been on another level. My reasoning why I have them at 8, I do believe the Pelicans are going to finish off the Blazers and make it to the second round. Why I have them at 8, that second round matchup would be against the Warriors. So sorry, Pelicans. It was a great year. You guys have looked awesome in the playoffs, but it's going to be very difficult to beat the Dubs. Hence why I have them in the middle of the pack in terms of confidence. Number 7, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who just lost and are now trailing 2-1 in the Eastern Conference first round. They have a horrible offense in terms of playoff stats so far. No help from their role players. LeBron is carrying this team. A little bit of a step up tonight from this series, I should say, from J.R. Smith and from George Hill. But Kevin Love has been awful in the playoffs so far. Tristan Thompson hasn't even played. Jetty Osman has been not as good. Rodney Hood and Jordan Clarkson, the two guys they've traded for, have been average at best. This Cavs team is just too inconsistent for me to have too much faith in them. It is a LeBron-led team, and you can never count out a LeBron-led team. I understand that. But this team is just too inconsistent. Hence why I have them right behind the team I have at number 6, who just won against the Cavs, the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers have the best defensive efficiency in the playoffs, partially because of the Cavs being absolutely awful on offense in the playoffs. But the Pacers also have been impressed with their outstanding depth from guys like Sabonis and Miles Turner and Darren Collison. And then you have your superstar, Victor Oladipo. And this Pacers team, what the Cavs have learned, the Cavs were up 17 at halftime today. The Cavs were up 21 in Game 2. They won Game 2 by 3. They lost in Game 3 by 4. You can never count out the Indiana Pacers. That's scary. When you're playing a young team with a superstar, Victor Oladipo, and they're never going to give up. They're never counted out. So now we move into my top 5 in this NBA playoff confidence meter. Number 5 is the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown has been very, very impressive so far in the playoffs. Really stepped up and become that star that the Celtics thought he could be. They have great depth and team play. One of the best coaches in the NBA, Brad Stevens. Marcus Smart, in theory, could be coming back in the next week. But no Kyrie Irving, no Gordon Hayward. That is still a very big thing. And my big reason for having the Celtics at 5, even though they are the 2 seed in the East and up 2-0 in the first round, the Philadelphia 76ers are coming very, very fast. These two teams are on a collision course for the second round, and I don't know if the Celtics can beat them without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. Moving on to number 4, we have the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers, what we've learned about them, Ben Simmons is a stud. If you watched him in college, he showed the glimpses of being a superstar, but he's really put it all together this year. Simmons reminds me in a lot of ways as a young LeBron. I don't know. He can't shoot like LeBron can. I don't know if he'll ever get to that level. Excuse me. But he's very, very good and the leader of a very, very promising young team. Embiid has come back. He played his first game since suffering an orbital fracture in his eye in Game 3, and he had 23 points. So the return of Joel Embiid is only makes the Sixers better. And the only concern I have, I guess you could call it a concern. I don't know if it'll even matter, but the lack of experience. Simmons, Embiid, Fultz, Saric, Covington, none of these guys have ever been to the playoffs before. Will that affect them if they get to a Game 7 or a Game 6 on the road when they have to stay alive? Will that affect them? And now into the top 3. Number 3, I have the Houston Rockets. The offense has regressed a little bit in the playoffs, but they have the best defense out of any team in the playoffs. The only thing you have to worry about is the history of James Harden and Chris Paul and their playoff concerns. Number 2, the Toronto Raptors. Raptors have the best offense in the playoffs with 119 points per 100 possessions. But the question with the Raptors has been the same question we've had for 5 years. Can they get over the hump? And can Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan carry this team to the NBA Finals? I think they're the best team in the East right now. I think it'll be a Toronto versus Philadelphia Eastern Conference Finals, and I think Toronto will win based on experience. But anything can happen. And number 1, I do have the Golden State Warriors. Excuse me again. Sorry about that. The Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry is coming back very soon. They have a great defense, third in the playoffs in terms of efficiency, and a near unstoppable offense. Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Nick Young, Sean Livingston, JaVale McGee. This Warriors team has won back-to-back or 2 championships in 3 years for a reason. They are going for the repeat. And right now, I think that the team to beat. So that covers the NBA for this week's show. We will be back at it next Tuesday with more NBA news and an update on the playoffs. Now we're going to move into a little bit of NFL. The 2018 schedule came out. This is also new if you're new. If you're coming back from previous seasons of Sports Talk, I usually had little mini breaks of about a minute or two. That's not going to happen anymore. I'm going to keep talking continuously. We're going to do this whole show with no breaks, no intermissions, and we're just going to keep going. So the 2018 NFL schedule was released, and I looked it over a little bit today while I was writing the show. And I thought this would be fun. I did the 3 best games, in my opinion, to watch every week of this season. And as the year goes on, I've noticed I did more and more of these divisional rivalries. And I found the divisions that really intrigued me in terms of like competitiveness. And I picked those division rivalries for the best games in the late season. I did 3 games for every week except for week 15, where I have 4 because it was just so hard to pick 3. But yeah, here we go. So week 1, we have the Falcons versus the Eagles, the Texans against the Patriots. Falcons-Eagles will be fun because the Falcons offense has so much potential. The Eagles coming off of a Super Bowl. Will Wentz be ready for week 1, or will Nick Foles have to start again? And the Eagles begin their quest for a repeat. Texans and Patriots is another game to watch in week 1. Deshaun Watson returns from a torn ACL to take on Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, looking to rebound after that heartbreaking Super Bowl loss. And then the final game of week 1, you've got the Cowboys and the Panthers as Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and the Dallas Cowboys look to bounce back after a poor season last year. And they take on Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. Moving on to week 2, we've got Vikings-Packers, NFC North battle between Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. Chiefs and the Steelers, as the Steelers look to continue being one of the top teams in the AFC North. Patrick Mahomes gets his first chance to take on a top team in the AFC. And then the final game of the week, Lions versus 49ers, where Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions look to make it back to the postseason. They take on Jimmy Garoppolo and the revamped 49ers. Week 3, you got an NFC South battle, Saints and Falcons. The battle for California, Chargers and Rams, or battle for LA, I should say. And then the Patriots take on the Lions, where you have Brady and Stafford going to head-to-head. Can Stafford finally win a game against a top-quality team? Week 4, you got the Vikings and the Rams. Not a playoff rematch, but it was a potential playoff matchup, if you will. Ravens and Steelers, one of the best rivalries in football, AFC North battle. And then the Broncos and Chiefs. Case Keenum, in his first year as a Bronco coming up, he goes on the road to Arrowhead, one of the toughest places to play in the NFL, and he takes on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Kareem Hunt, also in his second year in the league. Week 5, you have the Raiders and Chargers, AFC West battle between 2 teams looking to make it back to the postseason. Vikings and Eagles, rematch of the NFC Championship game where the Eagles humiliated the Vikings 38-7. And then the Cowboys and the Texans, Prescott versus Watson, two of the more promising young quarterbacks in the NFL. Week 6, you got the Steelers heading to Cincinnati, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, I am a Bengals fan. Yes, I know the Bengals aren't very good, but Steelers-Bengals is always a fun game to watch. Those two teams hate each other. You'll probably see a fight and a couple players suspended. So, yeah, why not check it out? Rams and Broncos, a little bit better of a matchup as Keenum and the Broncos look to have a bounce-back year. They host Jared Goff and the very, 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 very good Los Angeles Rams. In a few weeks, I'll have my NFL preview for 2018, but right now I'm not ready to commit to a team I think is going to win the Super Bowl. I do think that the Rams are one of the best teams in the league, but they just have no experience in the playoffs. But yeah, that's the other game. And the final game of Week 6, you got the Ravens and the Titans, two teams. Titans barely squeaked into the playoffs. Ravens barely missed. As Joe Flacco looks to maintain his elite QB status. Everyone in the any NFL fan knows Joe Flacco is. If you looked up the term elite quarterback in the definition, you'd see a picture of Joe Flacco, and he takes on Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans from the Music City. Week 7, you got the Panthers and Eagles, the Texans and Jaguars. Big AFC South matchup. First Jaguars game we've seen on here. Blake Bortles and Leonard Fournette and the Saxonville defense look to keep up what was a great season last year. And then the Giants and Falcons as Eli looks to have a bounce back year. Who knows? Maybe that Giants team will have Saquon Barkley. We'll find out in 6 days. Week 8, you got we'll be doing a lot of NFL draft talk next week on the show as well. Week 8, you have the Seahawks making their first appearance on my top games of the week, taking on the Detroit Lions, the Packers taking on the Rams, and the Saints taking on the Vikings in a rematch of yeah, sorry, Saints fans. I was really rooting for you there, but one of the most heartbreaking losses in playoff history. Marcus Williams whiffed on the tackle. Stephon Diggs caught the pass, ran it to the end zone. The Minneapolis Miracle, you know the rest. The Eagles pounded him into the ground and then won the Super Bowl. But Saints with an absolute heartbreaking loss. You got to feel for Drew Brees at this point. Hope he makes it back to another Super Bowl. Week 9, you got the Raiders and Niners. What could end up being one of the best California rivalries the NFL has to offer. Two teams 12 miles apart from each other. Carr versus Garoppolo. Does it get any better than that? I mean, probably. But two really good young quarterbacks. Two teams looking to bounce back this year. Two teams in a quest for the postseason. Be there. Week 9 from San Fran. Rams Saints you have also. Goff versus Breeze, the young Padawan versus the Jedi. And then the Packers and Patriots. I know the Packers aren't very good at this point. Their defense is brutal. They have a very inconsistent running game, and their receivers are But it's Rodgers versus Brady. Who wouldn't want to watch it? Week 10, you got Panthers and Steelers. Cam versus Ben. Carolina, the Queen City, if you will, the fake Queen City, the real Queen City, Cincy, I'm sorry. And then the Steel City of Pittsburgh and the Steelers at Heinz Field taking on Cam Newton. Jaguars and Colts. I know the Colts are awful. The Colts are really bad. I understand. But I put it on here because I think Luck will be back by then. And I felt like I owed Andrew Luck to have a game on here. So, division rivalry at Lucas Oil against Bortles and Saxonville. That should be fun if Luck is playing. And then the night game, Cowboys and Eagles. That'll be fun, especially if the Cowboys can have a bounce-back season. Week 11, you got the Steelers, Jaguars. Normally, this wouldn't be really this is kind of a weird game to watch, but the Jaguars absolutely destroyed the Steelers last year in both the regular season and the playoffs. Can the Steelers get their revenge this year? Will Jacksonville continue to be the kryptonite of the Killer Bees? Eagles and Saints take each other on them in what could have very possibly been the NFC Championship game if it wasn't for the Minneapolis Miracle. And then the Bengals and Ravens take on each other in Week 11. Yes, I promise the only Bengals games I put on here were the rivalry games. I know. No one wants to watch the Bengals unless it's a big rivalry game. So I understand. I promise I'm not biased. Week 12, you have the Falcons and Saints, one of the best division matchups that football has right now. The Raiders and Ravens, this is another one of those two teams borderline playoffs. Which one can win late season and get the game on the other, you know? Carr versus Flacco. Again, I keep mentioning Flacco, as elite as they come. Joe Flacco is one of the most elite quarterbacks I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. This dude's legit. But can he beat Derek Carr? And then the final game of Week 12, you got an AFC South duel between Mariota and Watson, Titans and Texans. Week 13, Rams and Lions take each other on. Stafford versus Goff. Chargers versus Steelers. You got Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, and the Chargers trying to get back into the postseason. They take on Big Ben and the Steelers. That'll be a big late season game. And then the Vikings and the Patriots. Can Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings, who think they have what it takes to win a Super Bowl, can they take down Brady and just New England? Can they take down Brady and the hated Patriots in Foxborough? I love the storylines that the NFL gives us. This is great. You can't write this stuff, which I mean, I guess they did because they made the schedule. But go sports. Week 14, we got the Jaguars and Titans. Here we go with these late season division matchups, guys. Jaguars, Titans, Bortles versus Mariota. 2 years ago, you would have thought this would be the lamest game ever. But Bortles got himself a defense and a running back and a decent arm. Mariota got himself a weak division where he can make the playoffs. This will be fun, Week 14. Eagles and Cowboys meet up again in Week 14, this time from Jerry World. And at this point, you'll be wondering, are the Cowboys going to make the playoffs or not? What if these two teams are both fighting for the NFC East? This could be a huge game from Jerry World. And then the Steelers and Raiders take on each other in Week 14 as well. Carr at home with Marshawn Lynch. There's no word if he's coming back or not, but he's got Jordy Nelson now. Of course, he's got Amari Cooper. No more Crabtree. But that Raiders team is good. I think they should be in the playoffs if they play well. But can they beat the Steelers at home in a big home game late in the year? Week 15, here's the 1 week I had 4 games because I couldn't decide. I'm sorry. I know you're probably all ashamed in me. But we get the Chargers and Chiefs, two teams that I think will be fighting for second in the AFC West. Yes. Second. I said it. I'll do my season preview in a few weeks. I know. You're all curious who I have winning the West now. But I'll go over it when I get there. Packers and Bears, NFC North duel. Rodgers versus Mitch. Mitchell Trubisky looking to take a big step in his second year in the league. The Bears, they can't be this bad forever, right? They have to get better at some point. And then the 2 games at night, this was the ones I was debating between for like 15 minutes, and I just decided to put them both on here. You got Patriots, Steelers, and Saints and Panthers. Saints, Panthers, that could very well be for the NFC South. I believe it will be. Those are the 2 teams I believe that'll come top 2. Patriots, Steelers, that could very well be for the 1 seed in the AFC again. Week 16, we got Vikings, Lions, another big NFC North game, especially if the Lions are in playoff contention. Texans and Eagles. Does Deshaun Watson have what it takes? And does the Texans defense have enough juice in it to get the Texans back into the postseason? They'll take on the Eagles in a big late season game in Week 16. And then the Steelers, again. How many good games are the Steelers playing this year? They're playing the Saints, Drew Brees and the Saints down in the Bayou at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. And then Week 17, last week of the season, you got Lions, Packers, always a fun NFC North battle. Bengals, Steelers from Pittsburgh. I hate losing to the Steelers. I hope it changes this year. Let's go. Hooday. We're going to be better. We got Cordy Glenn at left tackle now. We're fine. 8-8. I'm kidding. 49ers and Rams. That is Goff versus Garoppolo in the last week of the year. The Battle of the G's in Cali. That's fun, man. LA. Gurley, Goff, Garoppolo, good win, good game. It's G's on deck in LA. And that's the NFL schedule. That's how we're going to talk about in NFL this week. Like I mentioned, my preview will be coming up in weeks to come. Hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. We're about halfway through, I'd say. We still got a little bit of hockey to talk. We still got a little bit of baseball to talk, and then we'll wrap it all up. So let's look at some hockey that's on right now. Last night, again, we'll start with the scores from last night. Beginning with the Pittsburgh Penguins play tonight. The Boston Bruins defeating the Toronto Maple Leafs 4-1. The Bruins now lead that series 3-1. And the Washington Capitals beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 4-1. That series now tied at 2. Right now, you have Game 5, Pittsburgh and Philly, the Flyers and Penguins. That game just went final. And the Philadelphia Flyers hold on, stave off elimination. They beat the Penguins 4-2. This series is going back to Philly. Can the Flyers force a Game 7? That'll be fun to watch. We'll find out. That game will be on Sunday. Also tonight, the Jets defeat the Wild 5-0. They win that series 4-1. The Winnipeg Jets moving on to the second round. They'll take on most likely the Predators. Predators up 3-1 and at home tonight against the Colorado Avalanche. That game just began about midway through the first period, still scoreless. So like I did earlier with the NBA, I'm going to be doing a confidence meter with all the teams left in the playoffs, which unfortunately is kind of irrelevant at this point because I still had the Wild in it, but I do have the Kings and the Ducks out of it, so it's only 14 teams. Disregard the Minnesota Wild. They got spanked tonight. They are going home. They're a bunch of losers. Number 14, I have the New Jersey Devils. They're down 3-1 right now to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Devils just don't have an elite goaltender, and they're really young and inconsistent. I just don't see it happening. Number 13, I have the Philadelphia Flyers, who I clearly underestimated. They were down 3-1 coming into tonight. They are now down 3-2 and going back home. They figured out Matt Murray tonight, got 4 goals on him. We'll see if they can force a Game 7 against. Let's just pretend. I'm going to get to the Wild in a minute. Let's just switch the Wild and the Flyers right now, okay? So the Flyers are now going to be in the Wild spot, and the Wild are dropping down to 13 because they got housed. Number 12, I got the Colorado Avalanche in action right now against the Predators, down 3-1. Their goalie got hurt. They're really, really good on offense. They're pretty decent on defense, but they are playing the Predators in Nashville. That's hard to do. Number 11, Toronto. Toronto's down 3-1 to the Bruins. Toronto's got one of the most inconsistent goalies in the league. Toronto's got an offense that seems to be like a light switch. You don't know if they're going to come flipped on or flipped off. Their defense is woof. Kadri's coming back, though, for Game 5. We'll see how many games it takes him to get suspended again. Over-unders at 2 games. Number 10 was the Wild. It's now the Flyers, but I'll talk about the Wild. The Wild, I had at 10 because they have a good goalie and a decent offense and a good defense, and they can do it. They just got to win 1 game in Winnipeg, and then they can force a Game 7. Yeah, they lost 5-0. They're done. I'm sorry. I had too much faith in the Wild and not enough faith in the Flyers. Don't sue me, please. Number 9, we go top 10. I got the Blue Jackets. Number 8 is the Capitals. They're both tied at 2 apiece. The only thing separating these two teams, the Capitals are some of the biggest choke artists in hockey history. The Blue Jackets never won in the playoffs before. That's why they're at 9 and the Capitals are at 8. At least the Capitals have gotten out of the first round before. Columbus, I'm rooting for Columbus to win, but Columbus has never done this before. We don't know what to expect. Bobrovsky is good. The defense is good. The offense is inconsistent. Capitals, the offense is good. The goalie is good. The defense is inconsistent. What happens in these final 3 games? The Bruins are number 7. They're up 3-1. The only thing I don't like about Boston, Tuukka Rask isn't always one of the top goalies in the league. Their defense is very, very young, although promising, doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. And then you got Brad Marchand out there every night taking cheap shots, and he'll probably be suspended soon. And then you'll be left with just Pasternak and Bergeron, and Bergeron's coming off an injury, and Boston, it's not going to last much longer. Enjoy it. Number 6, I got Tampa. The Tampa Bay Lightning. Vasilevsky. Thinking of old Colorado goalies. I don't know why. Vasilevsky is good. The defense is good. The offense is good. Tampa Bay is good. But the last month or two, they've been, inconsistent. What went wrong? They're up 3-1 on the Devils right now. They should have no problems getting out of the first round, but then they'll take on the winner of the Bruins and Maple Leafs series. So a Boston-Tampa second round could be fun. Number 5, you got the San Jose Sharks. They swept the Anaheim Ducks to begin the first round of the playoffs. The Sharks, Martin Jones is a good goalie. It's good to see him back on the top of his game here in the playoffs. They've got a great defense and an underrated offense. But the Sharks now have to play the Vegas Golden Knights, who I will get to in a minute. Number 4, we got the Winnipeg Jets, who just won the series 4-1 over the Wild. The Jets have never won a playoff game before. Wait, they just won 4. I'm sorry. They've snapped that streak. Okay, all of you who thought Hellebuyck was going to become a franchise goaltender before the season started, raise your hands. Put him down now. I know you're lying. Hellebuyck was the backup to Steve Mason coming into this year, and now he's one of the candidates for the Vezina. Insane. The Jets could end up going far. The only problem is they're probably going to have to play Nashville. Number 3, you got the Vegas Golden Knights, who swept the LA Kings in their first round matchup. And what's not to like about Vegas? This is a brand new team. They took a whole bunch of players that nobody wanted. They made the playoffs, the second best record in the West. And they swept the Kings, who have won 2 Stanley Cups in the past 6 years. Vegas will probably end up winning the Stanley Cup because Vegas reasons. But for those of you who watch the hockey guy on YouTube, Vegas reasons. But I have the Vegas Golden Knights at 3 because inexperience. That's the only different thing. The only player they have of playoff experience really is Marc-Andre Fleury, their goalie, who has been fantastic. But can he get the goal support? Number 2, you got Nashville Predators, who are in action right now. The Preds were in the Stanley Cup final last year, lost in 6 games to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I will be getting to in a second. The Predators have Pekka Rinne, who's a total stud. Their defense, led by Roman Josi, Ellis, and then their defense is just stacked. PK Subban. Their offense is good. Philip Forsberg, Mark Sissons. It's just Mike Fisher. There's so many players you can just name off. They're such a good team. Ryan Johansson. This Predators team is very good, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they made it right back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Pittsburgh is number 1, and why wouldn't they be? The Penguins have won back-to-back Stanley Cups. They're up 3-2 on the Flyers. Matt Murray is a freaking god in the playoffs. I don't care if you love or hate the Penguins. You got to admit, Matt Murray, 2 years in the league. Oh, 3 now, I guess. 2 Stanley Cups, and he's been lights out this playoffs too. Any team with Crosby and Malkin is going to be tough to beat. Their defense is, it's not the best, but when you have an offense that can score 5 or 6 goals a night, your defense doesn't have to be the best. So the Penguins lead my confidence meter. They did lose tonight, but I still have them at number 1. So let's wrap up this show with a little bit of baseball talk. If you live in Ohio and in the area I live in, you know that Brian Price, manager of the Cincinnati Reds, was finally fired yesterday after a 3-15 start. Price was shown the door. Jim Riggleman, the bench coach, was named as the interim manager. The Reds will conduct a full search after the season. So that got me thinking. Who could be some potential replacements for the Reds job? Right now, my number 1 potential replacement would be Barry Larkin. one of the greatest Reds players to ever play. He wants to manage the Reds. Every single Reds fan wants him to manage the Reds. And I think he's my number one most likely manager. And then you also have guys that they hired John Farrell, his former Red Sox manager, who's now a scout with the Reds. He could definitely end up being the manager. You have Joe Girardi, who was canned by the Yankees last year. He could end up being the manager. Brad Ausmus, who was the Tigers manager, he now works in the Angels front office. He could be the manager. Jim Riggleman could still be the manager for all we know. What if Riggleman wins like 80 games in a row? What if the Reds somehow still make the playoffs this year? You got to bring back Riggleman, right? But yeah, that's some of the potential replacements. We'll be talking more Reds as the year goes on. And the only other really story I wanted to talk about right now, the Boston Red Sox, 16-2 out of the gate. They got Drew Pomeranz on the mound tonight. They're taking on the Oakland Athletics out in Oakland, trying to get to 17-2. Red Sox have been led by the best hitter in baseball so far, Mookie Betts, and a revamped Red Sox team that has been almost unbeatable, hence why they're 16-2. So we'll go over a little bit of scores while we're at it. Reds and Cardinals from St. Louis. Cardinals leading that one 4-1. Red Sox and A's tied 0-0, bottom of the first. Orioles defeated the Cleveland Indians today 3-1. The Astros lead the White Sox 7-0 in the top of the sixth inning. The Blue Jays up 8-5 on the New York Yankees in the bottom of the eighth. The Twins up 7-6 on the Rays in the bottom of the ninth. The Mets and Braves tied at 3 as they go to the ninth. The Rangers up 2-1 on the Seattle Mariners in the bottom of the sixth. The Brewers leading the Marlins 6-0 in the top of the sixth. The Cubs leading the Colorado Rockies 5-3 in the top of the fifth. The San Diego Padres and Oklahoma and Arizona Diamondbacks tied at 0 after 2. Giants and Angels going to the bottom of the first, scoreless. Nationals have already struck for 2 runs off Clayton Kershaw and lead it 2-0 in the top of the first. And the Tigers win game 1 of the doubleheader today, 3-2 over the Royals in 10 innings. The Royals just won game 2 of the doubleheader, 3-2. So they split the doubleheader. Those are your scores around baseball. Some of the top games, matchups I had on the day are obviously all in action right now. We had Toronto and New York. Marco Estrada taking on Sonny Gray. The Blue Jays leading that one 8-5, like I mentioned. Lance Lynn versus Chris Archer, Twins and Rays. Twins leading that one 7-6. Kyle Hendricks and John Gray in the Cubs-Rockies game. Cubs leading that one 5-3. And then Scherzer Kershaw just underway. Scherzer hasn't even taken the mound yet, but it's 2-0 Nationals on a 2 runs off of Clayton Kershaw. So quickly, before we wrap up the show, I'm going to go over the early season standings. Starting in the AL East, leading the way, the Boston Red Sox 16-2. In second, the Toronto Blue Jays 4 games back at 12-6. In third, the New York Yankees 6.5 back at 9-8. The Tampa Bay Rays are in fourth, 11 games back at 5-13, and the Orioles in fifth, 11.5 back, 5-14. In the Central, the Twins leading the division 8-5. The Indians are 9-7, a half game back. The Tigers are 8-10. Now that would make them 2.5 back. The White Sox are 4-11. They are 5 back. And then the Royals 4-14. They are 7.5 back, I believe. I think I did my math right there. AL West, Angels leading the way 13-6. Astros are 13-7. Mariners 9-8. Athletics 9-10. Rangers 7-13. In the NL East, the Mets are 13-5. The Braves are 11-7. The Phillies are 11-7. The Nationals are 9-10. The Marlins are 5-13. NL Central, Pirates 12-7 leading the way. Cardinals 10-8. Brewers 11-9. Cubs 8-8. Reds 3-15. About to be 3-16. I'm sorry, Cincy fans. I'm with you. It hurts. It'll be over soon. NL West, Diamondbacks 13-5, Rockies 11-7, Dodgers 8-9, Giants 7-11, and the Padres 7-13. So next week's sports talk will be coming up next Tuesday at 4. And that will feature some, we'll begin going over some MLB prospect breakdowns before the upcoming draft in June. And we'll continue coverage of the NBA and NHL playoffs. And like I mentioned, the Alabama Alcorn State game will be uploaded later tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode of Season 3 of Sports Talk. A lot more to come. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Till then, this has been Shay Neal in Season 3 of Sports Talk, live. Thanks for listening.